I said very early on in the creation of this channel that I wasn't going to get involved in rumour or gossip, but there are some situations where the discussion of conflicting information and outright contradictions blurs the lines with what some people might refer to as hypocrisy. Of course, I'm talking about the contradiction between Meghan and Harry and their perceived desire for privacy or complaints thereof, and the publication of all sorts of private information, such as the Oprah interview, the Netflix series, and the book by Harry called Spare. Of course, there was a statement immediately following the release of the Netflix series back in December to suggest that Harry and Meghan had never cited privacy as a reason for stepping back from royal life, and that a distorted narrative had been created. This followed suggestions by some commentators that the Netflix series was completely at odds with their reasons for leaving the UK. Indeed, both Meghan and Harry have been involved in numerous lawsuits against newspaper publishers, including over issues of privacy, and they've reportedly told several of the UK's largest newspaper tabloids that they will no longer cooperate with them. Now, for anybody that's watched any of the Netflix series or heard about any parts of it, there's a lot of complaints, I'll call them, within the first few episodes about intrusions from the press, which I completely agree has the potential to cross boundaries at certain points. But there are also several complaints within the Netflix series about people allegedly planting stories within the media to reflect negatively upon Meghan and Harry. And it's this apparent contradiction that I'm going to talk about in this video, alongside the reports that Harry and Meghan have been requested to vacate their UK property at Frogmore Cottage. See, on the one hand, I think it would be perfectly reasonable for anybody that did watch the Netflix series to conclude that it was full of complaints about intrusion of privacy, which, by the way, I do support, because intrusion to privacy is a relatively serious thing. However, that is a stark contradiction with the amount of detail that was revealed within that Netflix series and within Harry's memoirs. But alongside the complaints that others had been allegedly planting stories in the press, I found it somewhat interesting that the news that Harry and Meghan have been requested to vacate this property at Frogmore Cottage came itself from their own spokesperson, whilst Buckingham Palace has not commented on the issue. Now again, you'd be forgiven, in my view, for asking what does it have at all to do with anybody else whether they've been asked to vacate Frogmore Cottage, considering they're living in California in a multi-million-pound villa. And this is sort of the point. If it isn't anything to do with anybody else, and there was ostensibly complaints about planting stories in the media, one may further wonder why the information has been given to the media that they've been asked to leave Frogmore Cottage at all. It's now more than 3 years since they announced their decision to step back from royal life, and they left the UK shortly afterwards to live in the USA. And Frogmore Cottage, a Grade 2 listed building, a gift from the late Queen, was refurbished by them at a cost of £2.4 million in 2018 and 2019. This cost initially covered by the taxpayers through the sovereign grant, before reportedly being repaid in full by Prince Harry. But with this in mind, many people might start to wonder, well, where do they get their money from and how are their lifestyles funded? Well, the BBC reports on this from time to time and talks about their media company Archwell Productions, which among other things makes the Netflix series, which are thought to be worth millions of dollars. That along with the podcasts for Spotify. And of course they were interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, but they said that they were not paid for this appearance. Before that, and again according to the BBC, they would have received 95% of their annual income as being working royals, which in the year of 2018 to 19, the first year of their marriage, was a little more than £5 million to cover their public duties. And if you're wondering about the other 5%, this is reportedly from a taxpayer-funded sovereign grant. And again, according to the BBC, King Charles subsequently gave them a, quote, substantial sum to support their financial independence. This, of course, all on top of and separate from the inheritance that William and Harry shared from Princess Diana to the tune of £13 million. And this, according to Harry, during the Oprah interview, funded the move to the US. So all in all, I have to say I find some of the contradictions a little confusing. If they don't like information being fed to the press, why do they continue to feed information to the press? But either way, the reason I'm now talking about it is because you can't open a news app without reading something about it. As they say, read all about it. So please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to hear all about it from me here on this channel. I really appreciate you subscribing because I work for my own financial independence every day of my life, and I'd like you to subscribe to help me do that. So in the meantime, thank you for watching.